Welcome to the Swing Trading with Cycles channel. We're going to do our update on gold and precious metals in general today. It's a weekend update, March 4th, 2023. And so important where we stand here. Things are always more nuanced than anyone would like to understand, right? This is day 3 for gold. Actually, excuse me. Yeah, day 3 for gold. And we'll see miners are actually ahead of gold, and we'll look at the ratio charts. But what we're seeing here is a new daily cycle. Another way of saying that is we have an uptrend emerging on the daily chart, even though on a weekly chart, we'll show you the weekly here. Even though the weekly chart is starting, or I should say, is in a downtrend right now. And so we'll go back to the daily chart. If you're new to the channel, welcome. Take a look at the pinned comment to see previous videos. Some background on cycles, swing lows, swing highs. The TLDR is a swing high. This is a swing high, is how a downtrend begins. After this big swing high here, we started a downtrend. Another way of saying that is a swing high is what happens after you have a lower low. So this candle makes a lower low below this candle. That's your swing high. This is and you can just see this downtrend that started after that. So you have this big move down, this little move up. What is that? That's a lower high. This move down, a little move up, another lower high, move down, another move up, another lower high, move down, and now we've made a higher high so far. This high is higher than this one. And so you would expect, maybe a little bit of a move higher, and then, well, let me just continue to draw this out, right? So the two roads here are a move higher, a pullback, and then continue. And of course, the other option is this move up, a pullback, but instead of recovering, maybe a little feeble move up like that, a lower high, and then that. So these are the two paths, right? The idea is we probably have a few more days up at least, because this is only day 3. So even if it's going to be a bearish cycle, maybe we get up to day 5, 6, 7 even. And then it's a question of, on this pullback, does it just keep drooping? I mean, I guess, yeah, the other option is it just keeps drooping, it goes even lower like that. And then you really see it kind of cascade lower. I mean, this is like the really kind of bearish scenario. But either way, it's this kind of divergence of, are we going to pull back and then make a higher low and then keep going? The bias is that we'll probably go lower because we're in weekly cycle decline. And we'll look at the weekly chart to understand that. But if we think about this was a really long daily cycle. So either way, let's just say this is a more typical gold cycle that's around 30 days. So that, let's just say that that's 30 days. So that takes us to, the beginning of the middle of April. So this has, I think that said April 11th. And so let's think about that. April 11th, what week would that put us on? That would, if we go to the weekly chart, this is the multiple time frame analysis. Incredibly important to make sure that you understand what's happening on all the time frames at the same time. So that would be week 28. So that would be a relatively long weekly cycle, but interesting because that would come after this really short one at 15 weeks. And that was before this really long one at 31. So starting to notice a pattern? Right? A really long cycle and then a short cycle, and then maybe this is going to be a longer one. And so you can see a world in that scenario where, we can, so because we know because think about that. We know we're getting a daily cycle rally right now. So it's either going to be a bullish daily cycle or a bearish one. A bearish one would mean the weekly cycle decline continues. A bullish one will mean this is actually our ICL here and now on week 21. And this is actually a bullish outside candle, to be clear. It made a slight lower low. And so the high here is on week 18. And so this is week 19, 20, 21. So this is week 22. So the bullish scenario is this daily cycle low is also a weekly cycle low on week 22. The bearish scenario is this daily cycle is going to roll over early and this weekly cycle decline is going to continue. Let's look at some other charts to see if there are clues as to which path we're going to take. Right now, the evidence suggests lower. I'd say the evidence leans lower. That, the idea that like this trend leg down, this is just a lower high in that trend leg into your cycle low somewhere here. But even in that scenario, you could still see a bullish outcome, because down here is your 8-year cycle low. And so that's why the details on this are so incredibly important. Even if we get that, even if we continue the weekly cycle decline into April, it could still hold a higher low. And you can see that low here is 1615 for the 8-year cycle low. And more importantly is this swing low area here, right? So you really want to hold above 1735 is the exact level. That gives you a monthly swing low. I mean, it's really a zone ultimately as well. So you could see a world where we bottom like right around there even, right? In that April time period. So there are multiple ways that this can play out. This is going to be really interesting. So let's look at silver. Well, actually, let's look at the monthly chart as well. And so we had this bearish outside month last month. So we made a higher high, and then we also made a lower low. But then we got some wick. Instead of getting, like, usually these kinds of patterns see follow through to the downside, right? Like you would have expected a big candle flush lower, take out this low here, sort of a reverse symmetry move. But however, remember again, if we're going to get a bearish daily cycle, this monthly candle from March, this is only like 3 trading days. This is nothing. This could roll over and completely transform. It would start by building an upper wick, and then this thing goes red below 1826.69. So we opened at 1826.69. That becomes a really important level. Below that, this goes red. And then, of course, you would expect that we'd make a lower low below last month's low, and that's at 1807. So a great opportunity for short maybe coming up if we do get that weekly cycle, that early daily cycle rollover. So watching that really closely. The micro gold futures are a really nice way to play it. That's really capital efficient. If we look at silver, so silver also looks like it is on day 3, and that's after a really long cycle as well. So that's a top on day 53 and a low on day 71. And so again, same drill, just different levels. Let's look at the daily chart, the weekly chart. And so it's different count. So silver is on week 26. And the other thing to pay attention to for silver is that it made its high here on week 18, and then you had 3 weeks of consolidation inside that range, which we called out in these videos. And then it broke to the downside, which in real time looked like it was a false breakdown. Like this move here below these lows looked like it was a false breakdown, because this candle at one point was nice and green. And then, of course, it became a massive reversal. This is a big bearish outside candle. It made a nice new high, and then just made a massive lower low, closed on the lows. And then we've had 3 weeks of follow through to the downside. That was a big, and we know, of course, this was created by this big bearish candle here on the daily chart, which was followed through the next day. That's what created the big weekly bearish candle. That was your alarm bells ringing that the weekly cycle decline had started. But now you're getting this bullish candle here on week 26, which sets us up for a weekly swing low. So we need to get above 21.26 next week, and that would give us a weekly swing low. And it's the same deal here as with gold. Is this our weekly cycle low? Here it's week 26, so it's actually more reasonable in terms of what we expect from silver. Except again, we did have this 31-week decline here, this 31-week cycle, I should say. And so if this were to stretch out similar to gold and get us, or I should say, let's just get to the week of April 11th. How long would that be? Okay, so it would be a 32-week cycle. So not out of line with like something that we just saw. And again, that would just imply that this daily cycle here for silver, instead of having a right translation, so rallying for more days than it declines, is that it would rally for a few days and then make a lower low and continue to droop lower. And so that's what we're watching for. And on the monthly chart, you can see we're just an inside month right now. And, the level, like, this is much more bearish than silver, or gold, I should say, for sure. But right now, it's very early, so this candle can reverse very easily. So kind of a similar precarious position, similar to where gold is. Let's look at the miners, and then we'll look at some ratio charts and close this out. So GDX is actually on day 5. So it made a clear daily cycle low much earlier than gold on Friday, February 24th. and then been making more or less higher highs since then. That's a higher high. That's a higher high. That's a higher high. You have 1 day of consolidation on Thursday, and then big up day on Friday. Although the lower wick here tells you this candle was red at one point, so it wasn't looking so great, right? Like it opened here and then it just kind of filled the gap. Like it gapped. I mean, that's what really happened actually, if we want to be clear. And it's funny how you can see that from a daily candle. You can know that. We'll zoom into the lower time frames just to confirm that. But we know that it opened here, and then we see this wick down here, which means it was red. I mean, look at that. That's actually a textbook gap fill. My God, talk about textbook price action from GDX. So, and that all happened in the first hour. Wow. That's also important to know as well. It's not like it did that at the end of the day. So it opened here on the first hour, or I should say, excuse me, it opened here on the first hour up where this body is, and then dropped all the way down here, but managed to recover and close here. That's pretty impressive. And then basically consolidated for this next hour, and mostly consolidation for most of the day, and made a final push higher that at the end of the day. Again, is this in the context of a bearish daily cycle or a bullish one? That remains to be seen. It's a similar count to silver itself. In this case, we actually did make a higher high. So this was week 22 for GDX, but in GDX's case, unlike, actually gold actually made a higher high because it was a bullish outside candle. GDX, it wasn't a bullish outside candle because it didn't even make a lower low, but it did close as a higher high. That's an important signal. Now, what you would expect to see from this is follow through next week, something like that, to continue the move, right? So this makes this a swing low, and then you continue to move up on this weekly chart. And let's look at what this looks like on the 2-week chart. That's interesting, right? Always nice to kind of get a preview. So on the 2-week chart, it's just an inside week, and the high on that previous candle is 29.84. So that becomes an obvious upside target, even in a bearish cycle, where you could see maybe we get some rejection around that level. And the monthly chart, very similar to the other ones we talked about. It's just an inside candle so far, but super early. So this thing could go red. And for this guy, it opened at 27.80. So 27.80 turns the monthly candle red for GDX. So let's look at the ratio charts to give us some additional context. So GDX versus GLD, we want to see miners outperforming gold, and that's what we're seeing on the weekly chart. So the same way that the GDX itself made a weekly swing low, the ratio of GDX to GLD, so the ratio of miners to gold, didn't quite do that, got really close. It actually still closed as an inside week. But given the body of this candle, like closing near the highs, you would think that you get follow through next week, which means you get another week of GDX outperforming gold, which implies gold and GDX rising together, which makes sense. They're early in a new daily cycle. It's really just a question of how does that daily cycle play out? Does it play out bullish or bearish? And then obviously this cycle is going to tell us a lot about that as well. If we look at the gold to silver ratio, we want to see this thing pull back for precious metals to be bullish. And so in this case, man, this is just one clean, long daily cycle right here, isn't it? So far we have the high on day 51. So this is actually, I mean, I guess you can make an argument for a daily cycle low, like maybe even here, but even with that, this is clearly trending higher. I mean, look how it's just kind of holding the 10-day moving average. And so I could see a world where this thing just kind of collapses. So this is actually an interesting, because when this thing gets weak, it means that precious metals are strong. And so let's think about the weekly chart. So on the weekly level, we've been rallying for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 10 weeks. So I guess in that context, it hasn't been that long. And so that tells you, right, so that's interesting. This rallied for 19 weeks, for instance. So that actually could be, you could see how this can become, you can put this into the bearish camp for precious metals, in the sense that you could see this obviously needs to correct at some point, and maybe that's what this bearish looking shooter candle is telling you. We get a little bit of a pullback and then a move higher. So this pullback here is basically your daily cycle advance for the metals potentially. So that's something that we're going to watch for. That's a really big one to watch out for. I think, yeah, those are the two big ratios that we wanna make sure that we're paying attention to. Um, and I'll just turn over to platinum really quickly. I'm not sure I'll be able to do a full video on it, so I'll just talk about it here really quickly. So we talked about how this daily cycle, like this looked like it might have been a daily cycle low, but then we got this rejection. But now this is starting to look like basically this is your double bottom. This did make a lower low. So what is the count here? So this thing topped out on day 12, and this low came on day 45. So we definitely have longer cycles than 45 for platinum, but there's no reason why this couldn't be a bottom. And this is day 1, 2, 3, 4. So we want to watch for that, because that would also coincide with the precious metals bottom. That would make sense that they're rallying together. Again, the big question is it going to be a short-lived rally or a longer one? We have to continue to watch. And again, if it is going to be a short one, it's going to be a great opportunity to go short, because this is kind of the way it's kind of recharging for that last leg down. So that's the daily chart on platinum. And if you see the weekly, my God, I mean, look at this weekly candle, right? So this is week 26. So there's no reason why this couldn't be your weekly cycle low and daily cycle low for platinum. I mean, it took out, just took out these candles as if they weren't here. But although to be fair, these candles are mostly consolidation, but it's clearly trying to make a beeline for, like, I call it like this area. And I mean, clearly the $1,000 psychological level is going to be important. The swing low level for the weekly is actually only at 1051. So once it gets above 1,000, 10,000, 1,050 is obviously not very far from there. And in terms of retracement, it stopped almost, just got right below the 50% retracement, and then it's moved up. So you could say it stopped right where it needed to, which is a similar thing for GDX as well. So this is going to be really interesting. I say there's no need to declare that this is the end, this is a bear market rally, or that we're going to all-time highs. Just watch the price action. Let's just see how things unfold. Right now we have signals that might be suggesting either way. And the important thing is there will be time to position when we get the sort of ultimate signal. So that's it for now. That's our update on precious metals. Thanks for watching.